Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa, and this is my book, The Journey Within. This audiobook is adapted to a B1 level, written in quite simple language so you can fully understand it. At the same time, you'll have a chance to learn many new and interesting phrases, idioms, and vocabulary. Remember, you can adjust the reading speed to suit your needs. If you come across a more difficult phrase, feel free to pause the audio and read it out loud a few times to help it stick. And now, I invite you to start listening. Chapter 1, The Restless Mind. Emma woke up early, but she already felt tired. The alarm on her phone was loud and new messages appeared on the screen before she even opened her eyes. She checked the news, replied to a few texts, and then hurried to get ready for work. Outside, the city was noisy. Cars, people, phones, music, everything moved fast. Emma walked quickly, thinking about the emails she needed to write, the calls she had to make, and the things she might forget. Her head was full of voices saying, "Don't be late. Do better. Try harder." At work, she smiled at people, but inside she felt heavy. She tried to focus, but her mind jumped from one thing to another. She drank more coffee, hoping it would help her feel awake, but it only made her heart beat faster. When lunchtime came, she didn't even feel hungry. She scrolled through her phone again, watching pictures of other people's lives. Everyone looked happy, successful, full of energy. She whispered to herself, "Why can't I feel like them?" That evening, she sat in her small apartment and turned on the TV. There were hundreds of shows, but nothing made her smile. She turned it off and looked around. The silence felt strange, like she didn't know what to do with it. Emma thought, "I have everything. A job, a place to live, friends, but I still feel empty." She couldn't understand why. Her heart was full of questions, but no answers came. Finally, she said quietly, "Something is wrong. I can't live like this anymore." That was the first time she admitted it, not to anyone else, but to herself. And that small, honest moment was the beginning of everything that would change. Chapter 2, The Moment of Collapse. The morning started like any other. Emma woke up late and ran out of her apartment with a piece of toast in her hand. When she reached the bus stop, the bus doors closed right in front of her. She waved, but the driver didn't see her. She sighed, feeling a familiar frustration in her chest. "It's fine," she told herself. "I'll just walk." But the day had other plans. At work, her boss was angry because she forgot to send an email. Emma tried to explain, but her voice was shaking. He didn't listen. He just said, "You must be more careful." Those words stayed in her head, heavy and cold. Later, she bought a coffee to calm down, but as she walked out of the cafe, someone bumped into her and the cup slipped from her hands. Hot coffee spilled on her shoes. People looked at her, but no one said anything. That was the moment it broke. She didn't shout. She didn't run. She just walked to a small park nearby and sat on a wooden bench. For the first time in a long time, she didn't try to fix anything. She didn't check her phone, didn't plan, didn't think. She just sat there, quiet, tired, and full of pain she couldn't describe. Tears came, slowly at first, then more. She covered her face and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." The world around her continued. Cars passing, children laughing, birds singing. But for Emma, time stopped. And in that stillness, something new appeared. Not joy, not peace, but space. A small, empty space inside her that felt honest. It wasn't pleasant, but it was real. She didn't know it yet, but this quiet moment of breaking down was also the first step toward waking up. Chapter 3, The stranger in the park. Emma sat on the bench for a long time. The air was cool, and the sky was soft and gray. She watched the trees move slowly in the wind. Her eyes were tired from crying, but she didn't care anymore. Then she heard quiet footsteps behind her. An old man stopped nearby, holding a small paper bag. He looked at her for a moment and said softly, "Is this seat free?" Emma nodded. The man sat down, opened his bag, and started feeding the pigeons. He didn't ask her name, and she didn't ask his. For a few minutes, they both just sat there in silence. Finally, he said, "You know, people don't really stop anymore. They only run." Emma looked at him, surprised. "I wasn't running. I just got tired." The man smiled gently. "That's what I mean. You got tired because you've been running inside your mind." She didn't understand at first. He continued, "Your body can sit still, but your thoughts can run faster than your feet." She looked down at her hands. He was right. Even when she was sitting there, her mind was full of noise, memories, worries, regrets, all moving at once. The man threw another piece of bread to the pigeons and said, "Do you ever stop to breathe?" She looked up. "I breathe all the time," she said, a little defensive. He laughed kindly. "Yes, your body breathes, but do you feel it?" Emma didn't answer. She didn't even know what that meant. The man stood up slowly and said, "When you learn to really breathe, you will start to live." He smiled again and began to walk away. Before he disappeared down the path, he turned and said, "I come here every morning. If you want to learn, come back tomorrow." Emma watched him leave. She didn't know who he was. A teacher, a strange old man, or maybe something else. But for the first time in a long time, she felt curious. Something inside her whispered, "Go back." Chapter 4. Learning to Breathe. The next morning, Emma woke before the alarm. The city was still quiet. For the first time in months, she didn't open her phone right away. She sat on the edge of her bed and looked out the window. A thin line of sunlight was touching the tops of the buildings. It looked soft and peaceful, something she hadn't noticed for a long time. She remembered the old man from the park. "Do you ever stop to breathe?" His words stayed in her mind all night. She didn't understand them completely, but they made her feel something, a strange mix of curiosity and calm. So she decided to go back. When Emma arrived at the park, the same bench was waiting. The old man was already there, feeding the birds again. He smiled when he saw her. "I knew you would come," he said gently. She sat beside him. "I'm not sure why I'm here," she admitted. I feel lost." He nodded, as if he already knew. Everyone feels lost when they forget how to listen to themselves. "Would you like to try something with me?" She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Close your eyes," he said. She did. "Now," he continued, "take a slow breath in through your nose. Feel the air come in, feel it fill your chest, then breathe out, slowly. Just notice what it feels like." At first, Emma felt silly. People were walking by and she was afraid they would look at her. But the man's voice was calm, steady, kind. So she tried again. In and out. In and out. The sounds of the city were still there. Cars, birds, voices. But they didn't bother her anymore. Something inside her started to slow down. After a few minutes, the man said quietly, "Now open your eyes." When she did, the world looked the same park, the same trees, the same sky. But something small had changed. Everything looked a little brighter, a little softer. She looked at the man. "What was that?" she asked. He smiled softly. "That was breathing. Real breathing. Not the kind your body does automatically, but the kind that connects you to life." Emma frowned slightly. "I don't understand how something so simple can change how I feel." He laughed softly. "Because you never stopped to feel it before. When you breathe with awareness, you stop living only in your head. You return to your body, to this moment. And this moment is where peace lives." They sat in silence for a while. Emma felt a strange warmth in her chest. Not excitement, not sadness, but something new, something gentle. She didn't have words for it, and maybe she didn't need them. The man took a small notebook from his pocket and wrote something down. Then he tore the page and gave it to her. On it were 4 simple words: breathe, feel, accept, be. She looked at the words for a long time. They felt powerful in a quiet way. He stood up and said, "Practice this every day, even for a few minutes. It'll change more than you can imagine." Emma watched him leave again. This time, she didn't feel sad. She sat alone on the bench and closed her eyes once more. In and out. In and out. For the first time in years, her mind didn't fight her. It just rested. She stayed there for a long time, breathing softly, as if the whole world had slowed down to breathe with her.
Chapter 5. The Power of Silence. The next day, Emma returned to the park. The stranger was not there. Only the same birds, the same trees, and the soft sound of wind in the leaves. For a moment, she felt disappointed. She had so many questions. But then she remembered his calm voice. Breathe. Feel. Accept. Be. So she sat on the same bench and closed her eyes. She took a slow breath in and then out. At first, everything inside her started to shout. Her mind said, "This is stupid." Her phone buzzed in her bag. Her thoughts jumped to work, to her unfinished emails, to her rent, to what people thought of her. The noise inside her head was louder than the sounds of the city. She wanted to leave, but something stopped her. She remembered how peaceful she had felt yesterday, even for just a few minutes. So she stayed. She breathed again and again. After a while, she opened her eyes and looked at the world around her. The air felt fresh. The sunlight touched her face. She didn't feel peaceful yet, but she felt awake in a new way. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her thoughts were like a storm. She thought about her life, her job, her phone full of messages. She felt tired of everything, even tired of herself. And then she remembered Stranger's words. "Would you like to try something with me?" He had given her an exercise, not just with breathing, but with silence. The next morning, she found him again. He was sitting under a tree, eyes closed, as if he was sleeping. She didn't want to disturb him, but he smiled before she even said a word. "Good morning, Emma," he said softly. "You came back." "I tried breathing, but my mind keeps talking. It doesn't stop." He nodded slowly. "Yes, the mind loves to talk. But that's why we learn to listen." "Listen to what?" she asked. "To the silence between your thoughts," Stranger answered. "There's a place inside you that never shouts, never complains. It's quiet, but it's always there. You just forgot how to hear it." He asked her to sit beside him. "Today," he said, "you'll sit in silence for 10 minutes. No music, no phone, no movement, just silence." Emma's eyes widened. 10 minutes? Doing nothing? Stranger smiled gently. Doing nothing is the hardest thing for a busy mind, but it's also the most healing. She agreed. She closed her eyes and sat still. 1 minute passed, or maybe 10 seconds, she wasn't sure. Her legs felt uncomfortable, her back hurt. Her thoughts screamed louder than ever. This is boring. I can't do this. I'm wasting time. But Stranger's voice appeared in her memory. Don't fight. Just notice. So she noticed. She noticed her breath, short, fast, nervous. She noticed her heart, beating quickly but steady. She noticed the wind touching her hands. The city sounds were still there, cars, people, footsteps, but they didn't feel so strong anymore. Something inside her began to soften. The noise in her head didn't disappear, but it became quieter. It was still there, but it didn't control her. After a while, Stranger said quietly, "You can open your eyes now." Emma opened them slowly. The world looked the same, but she didn't. The light seemed brighter, the air softer. She felt like she had been asleep for a long time and had just woken up. "How do you feel?" Stranger asked. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Empty, maybe, but not in a bad way." He smiled. "That's not emptiness, that's space. The mind is finally giving you room to breathe." Emma didn't say anything. She looked at the trees, the people walking by, the clouds moving across the sky. She felt quiet. And in that quiet, she noticed something she had never felt before. Peace. Small, but real. When she went home that evening, the city noise didn't bother her as much. She walked slowly, watching people hurry past. Everyone looked like she used to, lost in thoughts, in phones, in plans. She wondered if they also needed 10 minutes of silence. That night, she turned off her phone early. She sat by the window, closed her eyes, and did what Stranger had taught her. At first, the same noise came back. Plans, memories, worries. But she didn't fight it. She just breathed and waited. And then, little by little, the noise softened again. The silence was no longer empty. It felt full. Full of something invisible, but kind. It wasn't the silence of loneliness. It was the silence of life itself. For the first time, Emma understood. She didn't need to fill every moment. Sometimes, the most powerful thing she could do was to be still. When she finally went to bed, she fell asleep easily. No racing thoughts, no endless plans, just calm breathing and quiet. Outside the city never stopped, but inside her, something finally did.
Chapter 6. The Mirror of Emotions. The next morning, Emma returned to the park again. The stranger was sitting on the same bench, feeding the birds as always. He looked calm, almost part of the quiet itself. When he saw her, he smiled gently, as if he had been expecting her. "You kept your promise," he said. "I tried. I sat in silence yesterday. It was strange, but good. I felt something different." The stranger nodded slowly. "Good. Now the silence has opened the door. It's time to see what's inside." She frowned a little. "What do you mean?" He looked at her for a moment before answering. "When the noise in your mind becomes quiet, your emotions start to speak. Most people run away from them. But you, Emma, must learn to listen." Emma felt nervous. "Listen to my emotions? Why would I do that? I don't like them. They make me feel weak, sad, angry, afraid." The stranger smiled kindly. "That's because you fight them. But emotions are not your enemies. They are like mirrors. They show you what is inside." He stood up and started walking slowly along the path, and Emma followed him. The morning light was soft, and the park was almost empty. After a while, he stopped near the pond. The water was still, reflecting the trees and the sky. "Look at the water," he said. "What do you see?" "I see the sky, the trees, myself," Emma said. "Good. And when the wind comes, what happens to your reflection?" "It disappears,"
she answered. Exactly, he said. Your emotions are like that wind. They move the water, but if you wait, the water becomes still again, and the reflection returns. Emma looked at the pond quietly. The words felt simple, but something in them touched her. So, you mean I should just wait when I feel bad? Not wait, watch, he said softly. When sadness comes, don't push it away. When anger appears, don't hide it. Just watch it. Breathe with it. It will tell you what it needs. They sat down on the grass near the pond. Emma hesitated, then asked, "But what if my emotions are too strong? Sometimes I feel like they control me." The stranger picked up a small stone and dropped it into the water. Ripples spread across the surface. "Do you see?" he said. "Every emotion is like this. It makes waves, but the waves cannot last forever. The water always returns to calm." Emma watched the ripples fade slowly. "I've always tried to hide my emotions," she admitted. "At work, I smile when I'm tired. I say I'm fine when I'm not. I pretend everything is okay. But inside, I feel like I'm breaking." The stranger looked at her with kind eyes. "You don't need to pretend anymore," he said softly. "When you accept your emotions, you begin to heal them. Sadness is just love that has nowhere to go. Anger is pain that wants to be heard. Fear is a child inside you asking for safety." Emma felt tears in her eyes. She didn't want to cry, but the tears came anyway. The stranger said nothing. He just sat beside her in silence. For the first time, she didn't try to stop her tears. She let them fall. She let herself feel. Minutes passed. The crying turned into quiet breathing. The air felt clean again. The pond was still and the reflection returned, calm and clear. Emma wiped her eyes and looked at him. "Why does this feel lighter now?" she asked. "Because you didn't fight the storm," the stranger said. "When you fight your emotions, you make them stronger. When you accept them, they pass through you and disappear." She nodded slowly. Something deep inside her began to change. For the first time, she didn't hate her sadness. She didn't feel ashamed of it. It was just part of her, a cloud passing through the sky. Before she left, the stranger gave her one more task. "Tonight," he said, "before you sleep, write down how you feel, every feeling, without hiding. Then, next to each one, write, 'It's okay.' Do this every night for 7 days." Emma smiled softly. "You really like giving me homework, don't you?" The stranger laughed quietly. "It's not homework. It's remembering who you are." That evening, Emma sat by her window again. The city lights glowed below, and the sky above was full of stars. She opened a notebook and began to write. "I feel tired," she wrote. "It's okay. I feel lonely. It's okay. I feel calm. It's okay. I feel scared about tomorrow. It's okay." When she finished, her heart felt lighter. She didn't need to fix herself. She just needed to accept what was already there. She closed the notebook and whispered softly, "Thank you, whoever you are." And somewhere, far away in the quiet of the park, the stranger smiled, as if he had heard her. Chapter 7. Letting Go. Days passed. Emma kept her small notebook close to her bed. Every night she wrote her feelings, just like the stranger had told her. At first, it felt strange. Some nights she didn't want to write at all, but she did it anyway. Each time she wrote, "It's okay," something inside her relaxed. The words were simple, but they felt powerful. She was learning that peace wasn't about being happy all the time. It was about not fighting what she felt. One Sunday morning, Emma went to the park again. The air was warm, and the trees were full of light. The stranger was sitting in his usual place, feeding the birds. He looked at her and smiled. "So," he said, "how has your heart been this week?" Emma laughed softly. "My heart? Busy, I guess. Sometimes peaceful, sometimes a mess. That's how hearts are. Always changing, always alive." They sat in silence for a moment. Emma looked at the sky and said, "I've noticed something strange. When I try to control everything, people, plans, work, I feel stressed. But when I stop trying so hard, things somehow work better." The stranger nodded. That's the lesson of letting go. He took a deep breath, then added, "You can't control the wind, but you can learn to sail." Emma smiled. "You always say things that sound simple, but mean a lot." He chuckled. "That's because truth is simple. We just make it complicated." They began to walk along the path by the river. The water was moving slowly, catching the sunlight. For a while they didn't talk. It was one of those quiet moments that didn't need words. After some time, Emma asked, "Why is it so hard to let go? Even when I know I should, I still hold on to people, to memories, to pain." The stranger looked at the water and said, "Because your mind believes that holding on gives you safety. But real safety comes when you trust the flow of life. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control what you can't." Emma thought about that for a long time. She remembered old arguments, lost friends, broken plans. She had spent years replaying them in her head, wishing things had gone differently. She looked at the river and whispered, "So maybe I should let the past flow away like this water?" The stranger smiled. "Exactly. The river never holds its water. It lets every drop go, and that's why it keeps moving." Emma felt quiet. She took a small leaf and dropped it into the river. It floated gently, moving with the current. For a moment, she imagined all her pain, fear, and old memories floating away with it. They sat together, watching the leaf disappear downstream. "Do you know what happens when you let go?" the stranger asked. Emma shook her head. "You make space for new things to come," he said softly. "Life can't give you peace if your hands are full of old stories." That night, Emma walked home slowly. The city lights reflected in her eyes. She passed a cafe where she used to go with an old friend she no longer spoke to. For a moment, she felt that old sadness again. But this time, instead of pushing it away, she whispered quietly, "It's okay. Thank you for what you were." And just like that, something inside her loosened. A small, invisible knot. She didn't need to forget the past. She only needed to stop carrying it. When she got home, she wrote in her notebook, "Today I let the river teach me. I can't hold the water, and I don't need to. I can watch it flow and still be at peace." She closed her notebook, smiled softly, and looked out the window. The world outside was still full of noise and movement, but inside there was space. Open, quiet, free. The next morning, when she woke up, she noticed something new. Her first thought wasn't about work or her phone or her problems. It was about the sound of birds outside her window. She listened for a while and felt thankful, not for anything special, but just for being here, alive, breathing. Emma was starting to understand. Letting go didn't mean losing control. It meant trusting that life knew how to move, even when she didn't. And for the first time, she didn't need to know what came next. She just smiled and whispered, "I'll let life take me where I need to go." Chapter 8. Energy in Everything. The next morning, Emma woke up feeling lighter than usual. She stretched slowly, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside. Even the morning traffic sounded softer today, as if she could hear it without letting it disturb her. She remembered the stranger's words about letting go and sailing with the wind. A small smile appeared on her face. When she reached the park, the stranger was already there. He was sitting on the usual bench, hands folded, eyes closed, as if he had been waiting for her. "Good morning," she said softly. "Good morning, Emma," he replied. "Sit with me. Today we will talk about something new." Emma sat beside him, curious. "What is it?" she asked. The stranger pointed to a tree nearby. A small breeze moved through its branches and the leaves danced gently. "Do you see that?" he asked. "Everything moves. Everything has energy. The wind, the leaves, even your thoughts. Everything carries power, even if you cannot see it." Emma looked at the leaves and felt something shift inside her. "All energy?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "Your thoughts, your words, your feelings, they are all energy. When you think with love, kindness, or patience, that energy spreads. When you think with fear, anger, or worry, that energy spreads too. Everything you feel or say touches the world, even in ways you cannot notice." She closed her eyes and breathed slowly, feeling the wind brush against her skin. For the first time, she tried to notice the energy inside herself, the movement of her heart, the rhythm of her breath, the quiet thoughts flowing through her mind. It felt alive, like a small river inside her body. "Energy is invisible," the stranger said, opening his eyes and looking at her gently. "But it is real. It is strong. You can let it flow in ways that heal, or you can let it block you. That is why you must pay attention to your inner energy, your feelings, your thoughts, your intentions. They will shape your experience of life more than anything else." Emma thought about the arguments she had with friends, the moments she had been jealous, the times she had worried endlessly. She realized that each moment of fear or anger had made her world feel heavy. But every time she had taken a deep breath, watched her emotions, or let go, the world had felt lighter. It was energy, moving, either heavy or light, depending on her attention. The stranger handed her a small stone. He said, "Hold it. Close your eyes and focus on it. Feel the energy it carries. Then think of something kind, for yourself, for someone else, for the world. Feel how that energy flows from you to the stone and then out into the world." Emma held the stone tightly. She closed her eyes and thought of her mother, who lived far away. She sent a quiet wave of love, wishing her health and happiness. Then she thought of her best friend and sent energy of patience and understanding. Then she thought of herself, sending warmth and kindness inward. After a few minutes, she opened her eyes. The stone was still cold in her hand, but she felt something inside her had changed. It was subtle, like a quiet hum in her chest, but it was there. The stranger nodded. "Do you feel it?" "Yes," she whispered. "It's alive." He smiled. "Yes, energy is alive, and it is everywhere. You cannot always see it, but you can feel it. The thoughts you carry, the emotions you accept, the words you speak, they all move through the world. And the more you practice directing them with awareness, the more life feels lighter, warmer, more peaceful." Emma looked around the park. She noticed the sunlight filtering through the branches, the movement of the birds, the soft ripple of the pond. She could feel the energy everywhere, gentle, quiet, alive. For the first time, she understood that peace was not just about stopping thoughts or feelings. It was about directing the energy inside her, choosing to let it flow in ways that nurtured her, rather than blocking or harming her. "Can energy really change the world?" she asked softly. The stranger looked at her, calm and steady. "Not the whole world at once, but it can change your world. And when each person changes their world quietly, one step at a time, that is how the world begins to change." Emma felt a deep calm. She held the stone for a moment longer, then put it back in her pocket. The wind moved through the park, carrying the leaves and the sunlight. She walked slowly back home, feeling lighter, aware, and peaceful. That night, she wrote in her notebook, "Everything is energy. My thoughts, my words, my feelings, they move and change the world around me, and they change me too. I can choose the energy I carry. I will choose peace, kindness, and love." She closed the notebook and lay down to sleep. For the first time in a long time, she felt completely connected to herself, to life, to everything. The energy was moving, quiet but strong, and she was part of it.
Chapter 9. The River of Life. It was a warm afternoon when Emma met the stranger at the park. The sunlight fell softly through the trees, and the city felt distant, quiet, almost gentle. The stranger was waiting near the river this time, not the usual bench. The water moved slowly, sometimes smooth, sometimes rushing over small rocks. Emma walked up to him, feeling a familiar calm growing in her chest. "Hello, Emma," he said. "Hello," she replied. "You're at the river today." "Yes," he said. "I want to show you something important. Life is like this river." Emma followed him down to the edge. She watched the water carefully. "It moves," he said. "It never stops. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes wild. But it always moves forward. It doesn't fight. It doesn't worry. It just flows." Emma thought about her own life, the moments she had tried to control everything. Her thoughts, her plans, even her feelings. She had fought them, pushed them, tried to make them behave. She realized how heavy it had made her. The stranger continued, "You cannot stop the river. You cannot stop life. The more you fight it, the harder it becomes. Peace is not when everything is easy. Peace is when you stop fighting the flow." He picked up a small branch and let it float in the river. Emma watched it carefully. "It moves with the current," he said. "You can watch it, guide it gently if you like. But if you try to hold it or push it upstream, it will break. Life is the same. Let it move. Let it flow." Emma closed her eyes. She imagined all the struggles she had held on to. Her worries, anger, sadness, fear. She imagined putting them into the river. One by one, she released them. She felt lighter with each thought, as if something invisible was lifting from her shoulders. The stranger spoke softly. "Notice the rhythm of the river. It teaches patience, trust, and acceptance. The water doesn't resist the rocks or the curves. It moves around them, shaping itself naturally. You too can move with life, not against it." Emma opened her eyes and looked at the river. She noticed the sunlight reflecting on the ripples, the tiny waves moving together, and the quiet strength in the water. It was alive, powerful, but calm. "Life will not always be easy," the stranger said, "but you can choose to flow with it instead of fighting it. You can learn to trust that each moment,
Each challenge, each joy and sadness is part of the river. You can move with it, gently and patiently. Emma thought about her past weeks, the silence she had practiced, the emotions she had faced, the letting go she had learned. Everything felt connected now, like steps on a path. She understood that the river was not just outside, it was also within her. Her thoughts, feelings, and energy were all moving, flowing, just like the water. She took a deep breath. "I think I understand," she said softly. "Peace is not when everything is perfect. It's when I stop fighting life." The stranger smiled. "Yes, and when you move with life, you find freedom, strength, and clarity. Even when the river becomes wild, you are not lost. You know how to flow with it." Emma watched the river a little longer. She noticed how the water moved past obstacles without struggle. She felt a quiet trust settle in her chest. For the first time, she didn't need to plan, control, or worry. She only needed to flow. Before she left, she whispered quietly to herself, "I will move with life. I will trust the river. I will be at peace."
That night, she wrote in her notebook, "Life is a river, sometimes calm, sometimes wild. I cannot control it. I can only flow with it. Peace is in the flow, not in the struggle." Emma closed her notebook and looked out the window. The city lights were twinkling, but they no longer felt overwhelming. The river of life was moving, unstoppable, beautiful, and she was moving with it. She felt calm, connected, and free. For the first time in her life, she understood what it truly meant to let life carry her forward. Chapter 10: The Inner Child. The morning was soft and golden when Emma arrived at the park. The city was waking up, but she felt calm, almost like she was moving in a different rhythm than everyone else. The stranger was sitting on the bench near the pond, his figure quiet, almost still, like part of the morning itself. "Good morning," he said gently. "Good morning," Emma replied, smiling. "I feel lighter today," she added. The stranger nodded. "Yes, you are learning. Today we will talk about something important, your inner child." Emma tilted her head, curious. "My inner child?" He gestured for her to sit beside him. "Your inner child is the part of you that was once free, the part of you that laughed, played, and felt joy without reason. It is still inside you, even if you have forgotten." Emma thought about herself as a child. She remembered running through fields, climbing trees, painting, and laughing for no reason. She remembered the moments of pure curiosity and wonder before life had taught her rules, fears, and expectations. "Sometimes," the stranger continued, "we forget this part of ourselves. We grow up and we carry responsibilities, worries, and doubts. We forget how to play, how to feel joy without reason, how to trust life." Emma listened quietly, thinking about how often she had rushed through her days, focusing on work, obligations, and control. Her childhood felt like a distant memory, a photograph she had almost lost. "Your inner child needs attention," the stranger said. "You must visit it, listen to it, and care for it. Only then can you feel complete and at peace." Emma hesitated. "But how do I visit it? How do I care for something I can't see?" The stranger smiled. "Close your eyes. Remember a moment when you were happy, safe, and curious. Feel it. Let yourself be there. Talk to your younger self. Ask what it needs. Sometimes it wants play, sometimes it wants comfort. Sometimes it just wants to be seen." Emma closed her eyes and memories began to surface. She saw herself as a little girl painting with bright colors on a canvas much too big for her small hands. She heard laughter, the sound of wind in her hair, the joy of running barefoot on the grass. She felt the same excitement, the same freedom she had once known. Tears came to her eyes, not sad, not bitter, but gentle and warm. She whispered softly, "I remember you. I see you. You are safe." The stranger said nothing. He just sat quietly, letting her sit with her feelings. For a long time, she stayed there, breathing slowly, remembering, feeling. When she finally opened her eyes, she felt something shift inside her. It was as if a small, forgotten piece of herself had returned home, a piece that had always been there, waiting for recognition, waiting to be loved. "Do you feel it?" the stranger asked softly. "Yes," Emma whispered. "It's joyful, free. I feel lighter." "That joy," he said, "is always inside you. It is part of who you are. You only need to visit it, speak to it, and remember it." The child within you teaches you how to trust, how to play, how to feel life without fear. Emma smiled. She imagined holding her inner child's hand, walking through a sunlit field, laughing and running. It felt real, more real than anything she had felt in a long time. Before leaving, the stranger gave her one more piece of guidance. Every day, take a moment to meet your inner child. It can be in the morning, in a quiet moment, or even while you are walking. Speak to it. Ask what it needs. Then let yourself respond, not with duty or fear, but with love and attention. That evening, Emma sat by her window and wrote in her notebook, "I met my inner child today. She is joyful, curious, and free. I will visit her every day, listen to her, and care for her. I remember now that peace is not something new. It is something I once had and can feel again." She closed the notebook and lay back on her bed, feeling warmth in her chest. The city outside continued its busy rhythm, but inside her, everything was quiet, gentle, and alive. For the first time in years, Emma felt whole, not because life had changed, but because she had remembered the part of herself that had always been there, waiting. And she knew deep in her heart that no matter what came next, she could always return to that joy, to that inner child, to the quiet, powerful peace that had always lived inside her. Chapter 11. The Present Moment. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh grass from the park. Emma walked slowly, noticing the softness of the ground under her feet, the warmth of the sun on her skin, the sound of birds singing in the trees. Every detail felt alive. Every small thing mattered. The stranger was sitting on the usual bench, as quiet as the morning itself. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Emma," he said. "Good morning," she replied softly. "I feel more awake today." "Awake?" the stranger asked, tilting his head. "Yes," she said. "Not like before. I notice things now. I feel the air. I hear the birds. I see people, really see them, not just passing by." The stranger nodded. "That is the present moment. It is always here. The past is gone. The future is unknown. All you ever have is this moment, now. And when you live fully in this moment, life becomes richer, deeper, more real." Emma sat beside him, closing her eyes.
She focused on her breath, slow and steady, as she had practiced for weeks. She felt the rise and fall of her chest, the rhythm of her heart, the gentle pulse of life inside her. She realized that every second she had spent worrying, planning, or replaying memories had kept her away from this living, breathing now. People often miss the present moment, the stranger said quietly. They are trapped in the past or anxious about the future. They forget that life is happening while they are busy thinking, wishing, or fearing. But the present is where life truly lives. Emma opened her eyes and watched a small child playing nearby. The child laughed freely, running and spinning without care, completely absorbed in the moment. Emma smiled. She felt a connection, a quiet recognition of the inner child she had met before, alive in her now. The stranger continued. Notice everything with your senses. Taste your food. Feel the wind. Listen to sounds without judgment. When you eat, eat fully. When you walk, walk fully. When you listen, listen fully. This is not just mindfulness. This is life itself. Emma nodded. She remembered how she had rushed through meals, conversations, and walks. Now she wanted to slow down, to be fully present with everything she did. They walked along the path by the river. Emma noticed the gentle ripples, the way sunlight danced on the water, the soft movement of leaves in the breeze. Each detail was small, ordinary, but extraordinary when she truly observed it. The stranger spoke again. The present moment is not always easy. Sometimes pain, sadness, or fear will enter. But even in those moments, if you are present, you can feel them without being overwhelmed. You can allow them to pass, like waves moving across the ocean. And then, life continues, flowing, always moving. Emma closed her eyes again. She felt her past regrets and future worries arise, but she didn't fight them. She breathed, observing each thought and feeling like a cloud passing in the sky. And slowly, the heaviness lifted. She felt a calm, steady strength in her chest. She opened her eyes and whispered softly, "I am here. I am now. This moment is enough." The stranger smiled as if he had been waiting for her to say that. Yes, this is the gift of the present moment. When you live here fully, life is always complete, and you carry peace with you wherever you go. Emma sat by the river for a long time, listening to the water, feeling the wind, noticing the sunlight. She no longer thought about what had been or what would come. She only lived the now, completely, quietly, deeply. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "The present moment is everything. I will taste, feel, and see it. I will live here fully. The past is gone, the future is unknown, but now is alive, and I am alive in it." She closed the notebook and looked out at the city, alive with movement. For the first time, she felt fully connected to life, not in memory, not in anticipation, but in the simple, powerful now. The stranger watched quietly from his bench, knowing Emma had taken another step in her journey. She was learning to live in the present, and in that living, she was finding peace, strength, and clarity. Chapter 12. The Light Inside. The day was calm, with sunlight streaming softly through the branches of the park trees. Emma walked slowly, breathing deeply, noticing the gentle rhythm of life around her. She felt a quiet excitement in her chest, not the rushing kind, but a steady, warm glow. Today, she was meeting the stranger one last time. He was sitting on the usual bench, his posture relaxed, his eyes calm and steady. "Good morning, Emma," he said. "Good morning," she replied, smiling. "I feel different today," she added. The stranger nodded, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "You do," he said softly. "You have learned much, and yet the most important thing remains, the light inside you." Emma looked at him puzzled. "The light inside me?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "The quiet, steady light that has always been there. It is not outside, not in the city, not in the noise. It is inside you, waiting for you to notice it, to feel it, to trust it." Emma closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She thought about all the lessons she had learned, the breathing, the silence, the emotions, letting go, energy, flowing with life, visiting her inner child and living in the present. And slowly she began to notice something, a warmth, quiet and steady in the center of her chest, a small glow like a candle lit inside her, flickering gently but never dying. It was calm, alive, and peaceful. It was hers. The stranger spoke softly. "This light has always been yours. You do not need to search for it, and you cannot lose it. It is part of your being, part of who you truly are. All the practices, all the lessons were to help you see it and feel it." Emma opened her eyes and looked at the river flowing nearby. She understood now. The light inside her was not a goal to reach, but a presence to feel. It had always been there, even in the darkest moments, even when she had felt lost or tired. "You see, Emma," the stranger continued, "peace is not about the world being perfect. It is not about having no problems, no fear, no sadness. Peace comes when you recognize the light within yourself and let it shine, no matter what happens outside." Emma smiled, feeling tears of quiet joy in her eyes. The light inside her seemed to expand, filling her chest, moving through her arms, down to her legs, and radiating outward. It was warm, steady, and comforting. "Can I carry this light everywhere?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said. "It is always with you. When life is noisy, breathe and feel it. When you feel fear or anger, look inside and remember it. It is stronger than all the outside noise, stronger than any challenge, stronger than any storm." Emma took a deep breath, closing her eyes. She felt the light expand, glowing softly, steady, and alive. It was not loud or flashy. It was calm, quiet, and powerful. It was hers. The stranger stood up slowly. "I will leave you now, Emma. But remember, you do not need me anymore. The light inside you will guide you. You are complete. You are enough. And you can carry this light wherever life takes you." Emma watched him walk away, feeling no sadness, only gratitude. She closed her eyes again, feeling the warmth in her chest, the steady glow of her inner light. It was strong, steady, and hers alone. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "The light inside me is always here, calm, steady, warm, and alive. I do not need to search outside. Peace is within me. I carry it, always." She closed the notebook and looked out at the city lights. For the first time, she felt completely whole. The world was still noisy, still unpredictable, still moving in its own way. But she was at peace, steady, and full of quiet light. Emma smiled softly. The light inside her was alive. and she knew she would never forget it. It would guide her through everything, shining quietly, powerfully, and gently. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly free.
Epilogue. Sharing the peace. Months passed. The seasons changed. The trees turned golden, then bare, then green again. Emma's life moved forward quietly, gently, like the river she used to sit beside. She still worked, met people, did her daily routines, but something inside her had changed forever. The light she had found within herself was now her guide. It didn't shout, it whispered. It reminded her to breathe when life got busy. It reminded her to smile when someone was rude. It reminded her to pause before reacting. It reminded her to feel, not to fight. Every morning, she began her day in silence. Sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes just 5. She sat near the window, eyes closed, breathing deeply. The city woke up around her, car horns, people rushing, doors closing. But inside, she stayed calm. She had learned that peace was not the absence of noise, but the ability to stay still within it. One day, she saw a young man sitting on the same park bench where she had once cried. He looked lost, staring at the ground, his hands trembling slightly. Emma felt a gentle pull inside her heart, that quiet light asking her to go and sit with him. She walked over slowly and sat down next to him. "Rough day?" she asked softly. He nodded, eyes still down. "Yeah, everything's falling apart," he said. Emma smiled gently. "I know that feeling." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, "You know, once someone told me something that helped me." He looked up. "What was it?" She smiled, remembering the stranger's words. "You can't control the wind, but you can learn to sail." The young man frowned at first, then smiled weakly. "That's nice," he said, "but I don't even know where to start." Emma looked at him kindly. "Start by breathing," she said. "Just sit and breathe. You don't need to fix everything right now. Just be here for a moment." They sat quietly for a while, listening to the wind in the trees. Emma didn't try to give advice or fix his problems. She just stayed, calm, present, peaceful. After a few minutes, his shoulders relaxed. He took a deep breath. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I don't know why, but I feel a bit better." Emma smiled. "It's not me," she said. "It's you. You already have everything you need inside you. You just have to see it." He looked at her with curious eyes. "What do you mean?" She smiled, looking up at the sky. "There's a light inside all of us," she said. "It never goes away. You just need a little silence to feel it again." The boy nodded slowly, thoughtful. Emma stood up, giving him a small wave before walking away. He watched her go, a little more peaceful than before. That night, Emma sat by her window again. The city lights flickered below, stars glimmered faintly above. She thought about how everything had begun. The collapse, the bench, the stranger, the silence, the breathing, the letting go. Every moment had led her here. And now she understood the final lesson. When you find peace within yourself, you naturally share it with the world. You don't need to try. Your calm becomes a quiet gift to others. Emma smiled softly, closing her eyes. The light inside her glowed gently, spreading through her whole body. And maybe, she thought, the stranger had once learned the same way from someone else who sat beside him in silence. The cycle continued one quiet heart at a time. And somewhere, in the distance, the strangers smiled too.
If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a moment of calm today. I'll be truly grateful for every comment, and I promise I read them all and reply to each one with love.